Man was shopping when he noticed something strange. Everyone was crazy to buy the goods on the shelves. Although he was surprised, David did not care and hurriedly purchased supplies and returned home. But just as he turned to organize his things, the television broadcast a frightening news that a new virus is ravaging the country and those infected will lose their minds and be extremely aggressive. Although the situation is stabilizing under the control of the military, the media is urging people to wear masks and take precautions. But a phone call from my sister in the evening blew the lid off the official cover-up. Her sister, a senior government official, knew more than she was letting on that the virus was much worse than she thought and that a shelter had been built, so that her brother should come and meet her to evacuate. Hearing that the situation is so serious, David immediately booked tickets to leave the town, but just as the queue to board the plane, the ticketing system suddenly failed and then saw the airport canceled all incoming and outgoing flights and then everyone's cell phone highlights an emergency message. It turns out that due to the rapid spread of the virus, the country has been a total martial law, does not allow anyone to enter or leave the country. Realizing that the situation is not right, David immediately asked his sister, but she told him to go home and wait for the right time. She will send someone to pick him up. David had no choice but to flee with the crowd in a panic. But when he returned, the streets had already been blocked tightly and the people who had received the news began to run for their lives. Looking at the large number of people forced to gather here, David felt bad and hurriedly left the car on the side of the road, grabbed his luggage and returned home on foot. However, when he returned to his neighborhood exhausted, he found the scene covered with heavily armed soldiers and they are controlling a human towards the safety car. From his face and twisted limbs, it is not difficult to see that the neighbor has long been mutated. David's head was spinning, and the idea of fleeing the town became stronger and stronger. But the next day, his sister brought bad news that the virus was spreading much faster than the officials thought and they were planning to set up a quarantine zone to control the virus when the police would force everyone to evacuate. She warned David to avoid the search and not to go to the so-called quarantine area because the virus spreads from person to person and the more people there are, the more dangerous it will be, and to wait until the area is completely abandoned before going to pick him up. As soon as he thought of the rescue may still need time, David immediately got up and wanted to go to the supermarket to stock up on supplies, but when he arrived at the place he realized that not only the goods on the shelves had been snapped up but also even the food that had fallen on the ground had long been watched by people. David, as soon as he picked it up, an old man snatched it away helplessly. He eventually found only a little bit of cookies that dogs don't eat, and that's how he managed to fill up the knapsacks. However, as soon as he stepped out of the supermarket, he saw a policeman with his arm covered in blood running back into the supermarket and locking the door before David could figure out the situation. He saw a large crowd of people screaming and running away into the distance. After such a shocking scene, David returned home and immediately sealed the doors and windows and then closed the curtains to block the view from inside the house, because by now the army had already begun to evacuate the people one after another. Soon there was a noise from outside his house. David quickly hid in the corner and did not dare to make a sound in the end because he could not open the door of the police outside the house. Can only be fortunate to leave. Time has passed half a month long. The whole city has long been reduced to a ghost town, was completely abandoned, but David still did not wait for his sister's words of rescue, and because no one to maintain the mobile signal, he also lost contact with his sister. Fortunately, in the villa area, each household has installed photovoltaic power generation. Food, although not spoiled but almost depleted. Not wanting to sit around and wait, David planned to take the initiative, but with only a fish gun he didn't dare go far. So he had to break into a neighbor's house to try his luck. Fortunately, the army had evacuated all the residents of the neighborhood and there was no sign of the infected for the time being. But unfortunately, David did not find a single edible item after searching through several houses, and as he persisted in moving on to the next one, he discovered that there were others who had not been evacuated, just like him.